ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 p.m. in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, online at wadr.org and on YouTube and Facebook at WADR English. Here are the top stories. Senegalese National Assembly adopts a bill on asset declaration as part of its sweeping reforms across multiple sectors. In Mali, an appeal court sentences Rasbat and Rukia Dumbuya to 10 years in prison each for charges including attack on the state. Liberia targets 80,000 out-of-school children for return to the classroom in 2026.
So children are the future of this country, and sometimes among them are very, very brilliant children that need opportunity.
And the Ghanaian government moves to regularize motorcycle and tricycle operation following a weekend protest in Accra.
I've heard some of them saying that the processes are going slow. We want to assure them that we will give them proper training before we allow them on our street.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Abdullahi Hassan.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Newslink begins right here in Senegal as the National Assembly today continued with its quest to implement sweeping reforms across multiple sectors. Earlier in the day, the House, after a tough and heated debate, adopted yet another bill amending Article 37 of the Constitution. Monday's amendment seeks to revise the rules governing the declaration of assets by the head of state. Recall that last week, Parliament adopted the first of 5 bills seeking to amend the Constitution. That legislation focused on the oversight of special funds, commonly known as political funds. Let's join Imoradet for the details.
The amendment requires the president to declare and make public their assets at both beginning and the end of their term in office, rather than only at the start of the mandate, as provided under the current provision. The vote followed heated exchanges in Parliament, with opposition lawmakers challenging the procedure and raising objections to the proposed reform. One non-affiliated MP, Tafsir Choye, also questioned the regularity of the process. The Assembly's 4-day extraordinary session continues Tuesday with examination of proposed reforms to the Labour Code and Social Security Code. On Wednesday, lawmakers are expected to consider legislation governing special credits, commonly referred to as political funds. The session will conclude Thursday with a bill on the protection of critical information, infrastructure and digital security. The National Assembly opened its first extraordinary session of 2026 on August 10, with several major legislative and institutional reforms on the agenda.
We'll bring you more analysis on that in a subsequent bulletin. In Mali, the Bamako Appeals Court has handed down a 10-year prison sentence to 2 popular activists. The activist Mohamed Yusuf Batli, also known as Rasbat, and activist Rukia Dumbuya Rose Vecher were also slapped with a fine of 240,000 CFA francs each. According to the ruling, the 2 will serve 7 years in prison, while the remaining 3 years are suspended. Augustine Coley tells us more.
The 2 were convicted on charges including criminal conspiracy and undermining the reputation of the state through information and communication technologies. The case also centers on the public criticism of Mali's rising cost of living, power cuts, and worsening economic difficulties. Rose Ficheri made the comments during appearances on Rasbav's program, Le Grand Dossier. She said her aim was to draw the authorities' attention to the hardship faced by ordinary Malayans, while Rasbav defended the broadcasts as journalism in the public interest. Rasbav and activist Rukia Dumbuya have continued to deny any attempt to destabilize the authorities and argued that their statements were in the public interest. Their lawyers had called for their acquittal, challenging the prosecution's evidence and the alleged existence of any agreement between the 2. Both defendants have been detained for several years and can now appeal the ruling before Mali's Supreme Court.
Augustine Coley reporting there. Still in Mali, the Azawad Liberation Front, FLA, says it has handed over 6 wounded Malian soldiers to the International Committee of the Red Cross for medical treatment. The FLA says that the soldiers were captured during fighting with the Malian armed forces and were evacuated by an ICRC helicopter from Kidal to Gao on August 16. Deborah Amour has the details.
The ICRC has confirmed the medical transfer but referred to the men only as wounded persons in keeping with its neutrality. The handover follows the reported release of 82 Malian soldiers earlier this week, with both the Army and the FLA issuing statements about the releases. The FLA says the latest handover was carried out on humanitarian grounds and in accordance with international humanitarian law. The ICRC says the operation was conducted after obtaining security guarantees from all sides that the wounded soldiers will receive further treatment before being reunited with their families. The developments come amid continued uncertainty over the fate of security personnel captured during fighting in northern Mali, with the FLA previously claiming to hold more than 200 members of the security forces. The ICRC says it will continue its confidential engagement with all parties to facilitate further humanitarian operations involving wounded and detained persons.
Deborah Amour with that report. More from the Sahel. Nigeria signed a $1.9 billion agreement with Zimar Group for the construction of a major refinery and petrochemical complex in Doso. The facility will have a refining capacity of 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day through 3 production units. Nigeria says the refinery will boost local processing of its crude, reduce dependence on imported petroleum products, and strengthen the country's energy sovereignty. The authorities also hope to position Niger as a regional hub for refined petroleum and petrochemical products, serving markets across the Sahel. The agreement marks another step in the country's drive to industrialize its oil sector and generate greater value from its national resources.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. As a reminder, we stream live at wadr.org and on YouTube and Facebook at WADR English. Let's now take you to Togo, where several opposition and civil society groups are calling for a greater mobilization following a recent ruling by the ECOWAS Court of Justice on the country's constitutional reform. They include DMK, Dynamic Movement of Bozo, DMP, Dynamics for the Majority of the People, the Light for the Development in Peace, and the Hands Off My Constitution movement. In a joint statement, they accused the government of attempting to challenge the regional court authority. Veronica Njai has more.
The opposition and civil society groups are urging the economic community of West African states ECOWAS and the African Union to enforce the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. They accuse the government of attempting to delay or undermine the court's ruling, which could lead to severe consequences. As a reminder, the Togolese government rejected the court's jurisdiction to examine the constitutionality of domestic legislation or to rule on the country's constituent power, but the opposition groups maintain that the ruling should be respected and are calling on regional and continental institutions to take action. They also warn against what they describe as a possible sham national dialogue, constitutional revision, or elections that could, in their view, perpetuate the current political system. The groups are also calling on the Togolese population to prepare for a broader mobilization that would ensure a political transition and national consultations. They say the objective is to create conditions for all the country's political and social forces to participate in rebuilding the republic.
Veronica Njai with that report. Away from Togo now to Guinea, President Mamadou Doumbouya has made changes to the military hierarchy following his return from a 10-day vacation to Europe. During an extraordinary meeting with members of the government and the Army's General Staff, he also announced new measures for public appointments. From now on, proposed decrees and orders appointing officials within the public administration will require the President's direct oversight. While acknowledging the importance of this move, Ibrahima Balaya Jallo, a civil society activist, remains cautious about whether President Doumbouya will succeed in imposing this new vision of governance even on his inner cycle.
We all felt that in recent months he had lost control of many things. He's gone on vacation. I think those 10 days did him good, and that upon his return, he felt that certain things were stripping away from him. Now he needs to make up for the lost time. There were moments of hesitation. We had the feeling that it was the faction that were making decisions to the detriment of the government and everything. Now he wants to return to his promises, but because under the cottages, people are upset. You are told that many of the positions are occupied by a single group. That poses a problem.
Ibrahima Balaya Jallo is a Guinean civil society activist in neighboring Liberia. The government is stepping up efforts to get children back into school with plans to enroll 80,000 adult school children across 7 counties during the 2026 academic year. The initiative is part of the Back to My Classroom campaign, which aims to return 250,000 children to education by 2029. Launched in 2024 with UNICEF support, the campaign is now being expanded into a multi-sector effort involving the Ministries of Education, Health and Gender, county authorities and development partners. From Monrovia, Abraham Parker reports.
This campaign follows a high-level steering committee meeting convened by President Josiah Boakai to review the project. The president describes children outside the education system as a national loss, warning that some of those children could become a burden on society.
The children are the future of this country, and sometimes among them are very, very brilliant children that need opportunity. But it goes beyond just caring, is the kind of preparation that we're making.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Dr. Jackson Jala says the exercise is not a relaunch, but an accountability checkpoint focused on turning the campaign into a unified implementation framework.
The Back to My Classroom is the framework that makes this multi-agency response possible. Behind the scenes, our interministerial technical teams have spent months aligning mandates, costing work plans, and building a unified implementation model.
UNICEF's Deputy Country Representative Amadou Cisse reaffirms the agency's technical and operational support towards the project. He maintains that every child's right to quality education is a national priority.
The challenge remains significant, as an estimate of 90% of children aged 6 to 11 years are out of school. Adolescent girls face the greatest barrier, with 32% of girls aged 15 to 19 are pregnant and or early mothers.
The steering committee has presented an estimated annual financing requirement of $5 million for the campaign. The government says the ultimate measure of success will not simply be getting children to do the school gate, but ensuring they remain in school, learn, and grow. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
And just before the break, our Accra correspondent, Eliklim Awoku, says the government is asking commercial motorcycle and tricycle operators, popularly known as Okada, to exercise patience as it works to complete processes toward regularizing their operations. The assurance follows a weekend demonstration in Accra by the Okada Riders Association of Ghana and the National Union of Tricycle Operators, who are demanding legal recognition for their activities. Here's a report.
The demonstrators say they have operated for years without a clear legal framework and are calling on the government to end the uncertainty and formally recognize their businesses.
Some exuberant police officers don't even care about our operations, and only what they care about is extortion and taking advantage of the regulation.
We want the police to stop harassing us. This is our livelihood. What do we take home at the end of the day?
President John Dramani Mahama gave us their word that they will legalize our activities, not to ignore us.
Responding to the concerns, Transport Minister Joseph Bukari Nikbe says the government is committed to legalizing the sector, but operators must first be prepared to work within safety and regulatory standards.
We have to go through comprehensive education and training before you will get to the roads to work as commercial motor riders. I've heard some of them saying that the processes are going slow. We want to assure them that we will give them proper training before we allow them on our street.
The DVLA CEO, Julius Nikwe, mentioned that riders will be required to undergo training through the DVLA's Skills Development Center for the issuance of a commercial license under the new road traffic regulations.
The DVLA has a skills development center where you receive a commercial license after graduating. So be patient.
For these riders, the implementation of the Okada policy will be more than just a new transport option. It will be a test of the NDC government's commitment to one of its key campaign promises. The focus remains on how effectively the policy will be rolled out while addressing concerns about road safety, regulation, and public transport. For WADR, Elik Blimauku, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, online at wadr.org, and on YouTube and Facebook at WADR English. Here are the top stories. Senegalese National Assembly adopts a bill on asset declaration as part of its sweeping reforms across multiple sectors. In Mali, an appeal court sentences Rasbat and Rukia Dumbuya to 10 years in prison each for charges including attack on the state. Liberia targets 80,000 out-of-school children for return to the classroom in 2026. And also told that the Ghanaian government is moving to regularize motorcycle and tricycle operation following a weekend protest in Accra. Ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
From the heart of Nigerian politics, this is Yechi Nusasitu in Abuja, and you are listening to WADR 94.9 FM Dakar.
In Nigeria, civil society and political rights groups are applauding the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and other stakeholders for the peaceful conduct of Saturday's governorship election in Osun State. Incumbent Governor Ademola Adeleke, running on the Accord Party platform, defeated APC candidate Bola Oyebamiji to secure a second term. As WADR's Usman Omar reports, observers say the peaceful polls offer valuable lessons for Nigeria ahead of the 2027 general elections.
Governor Ademola Adeleke has been declared winner of the Osun governorship election after polling 511,067 votes, defeating his closest challenger, who scored 444,815 votes. Adeleke won 19 local government areas, while Oyebamiji carried 11. The outcome has drawn commendation from civil society and political stakeholders, who say the relatively peaceful poll demonstrates that credible elections remain possible when electoral and security institutions perform their duties professionally. Asma Umekudi is the head of Election Observation Mission for Yaga Africa.
Ahead of the Osun governorship election, we describe the poll as a defining test of electoral preparedness, security neutrality, and public trust. We argue that the readiness of INEC, security agencies, and political parties will be judged by their conduct and performance on election day. With the election concluded, the evidence suggests that INEC and security agencies largely passed the test.
The Action People's Party, APP, also described the election as an important democratic test. Its national chairman, Uchenna Nnadi, stressed the need to draw lessons from the Osun experience as political parties prepare for 2027.
Credible democracy requires continuous improvement. We therefore encourage INEC to undertake a comprehensive post-election review of the Osun exercise, engage political parties and other stakeholders, identify areas of weakness, and ensures that lessons learned are incorporated into subsequent elections.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Adeleke on his victory. describing the outcome as a reflection of the will of Osun voters and urging the governor to unite the people of the state for development. The Osun election therefore offers an early political signal ahead of 2027, with stakeholders watching whether the conduct of the poll can be replicated in the next general election. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
For the guest segment this evening, we take a closer look at Liberia's plan to bring 80,000 out-of-school children back into classrooms this year as part of its wider target of reaching 250 children by 2029. But how realistic is this target, and can Liberia's education system absorb and retain such a large number of new learners? To examine the feasibility and challenges of the initiative, WADR spoke with Dr. Charles Bully, a Liberian educationist and researcher.
I believe that such target could help maybe bring about the compulsory aspect of the pre and compulsory education. Whether it's achievable, I would say it depends on the level of efforts, how strategic we'll be, and how willing we'll be to do different things that will be able to help to make that possible.
If tens of thousands of children return to school at once, where are the biggest pressure points likely to be?
A major challenge we've had, maybe two major challenges, have been getting quality teachers. We still lack the system of teacher licensing and certification, where all those who are in the system have been prepared as teachers and they are continuously being developed professionally. That is a bit of a challenge, but also some infrastructure has improved, but to a larger extent, we still have some school conditions that need a lot of work. So more children in school means that we have more classrooms, we have to have better spaces, we have to have more secure spaces, we have to have learning materials. We even have to limit the distances, the access to the schools that we are talking about.
Can simply increasing enrollment address the problems, or does Liberia need a different approach?
Well, it's going to be one step at a time. A few weeks ago now, the ministry announced that it is taking off the minimum registration that is being provided to get children in school for elementary system from grades 1 to 6, to be specific. That is a good move. We've heard of the ministry planning some monitors. Part of what has been the challenge, monitoring and supervision of schools, though we have the district education officers, country education officers, but their capacity has been very limited, checking on school as much as possible.
How should we judge the success of the Back to My Classroom campaign?
So there are three priority areas of education. One is access, quality, and governance. So access, are we ensuring that the children have means to get to school, or when they get to school, they're accessible for learning? And the second question is around the quality of it. Are they getting what they're going for, or just want to have them in the space and all that? Are their leaderships in place, the administrative part and their daily activities to make sure that the place is going well? So yes, by getting the children in school, maybe you'll be imparting aspect, which is on access, but also you need to build out other things like building the quality of teachers, trying to improve school infrastructure through renovation, provision of furniture. We've had some public institutions very much overcrowded. With putting more students in school, you could have pressure on the classrooms, definitely. You got to bridge that. Success may be counted on the more people back to school, but can we count that beyond to ensure that they are also getting the value, the quality of education which seeking in school?
Dr. Charles Bully, a Liberian educationist and researcher. In the sporting world, Cameroon have won the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, claiming their first ever title after a convincing 3-0 victory over Malawi in Rabat. Mari Inga opened the scoring in the 20th minute before Naomi Injao Eto doubled Cameroon's lead 10 minutes later. Mari Inga added a third goal just before halftime to seal a dominant final victory. Cameroon reached the final after eliminating Nigeria in the quarterfinals and beating hosts Morocco on penalties in the semi-finals. Malawi, who topped Group C, reached their first AFCON final after defeating Ghana and Algeria in the knockout round. Algeria finished third after winning the bronze medal match. Now to basketball, and at the FIBA Under-18 Afrobasket in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali have emerged as champions in the men's and women's competitions respectively. Cote d'Ivoire secured its first ever men's Under-18 continental title after defeating Senegal 73-51 in Sunday's final at the Palais des Sports in Trècheville. The Ivorian dominated from the opening quarter, leading 16-7 before taking a 34-24 advantage into halftime. They then pulled further ahead in the third quarter to secure a 22-point victory. In the women's competition, Mali retained its title with a 77-68 victory over Nigeria. Maimouna Traoré scored 18 points and was named most valuable player, while teammate Kondi Keita finished as the tournament's leading scorer and best three-point shooter. The Under-18 men's and women's competitions were held in Abidjan from August 4 to 16, with Cameroon taking bronze in the men's tournament and Egypt finishing third in the women's category. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maodo Diouf for the streaming services. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at WADR English, and stream live at wadr.org. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.